Security Halt podcast. Let's go.
You're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. With a man who's the best. With guns, with knives, with his bare hands. A man who's been trained to ignore pain, ignore weather, to live off the land. Job was to dispose of enemy personnel. To kill. Period. Win by attrition.
Okay.
Victoria Warren, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
You're our first nurse.
Oh,
Yeah, first.
you haven't had any nurses before?
No nurses. Nope.
Oh, well, thank you.
Which is perfect because that's often a career field and dedicated providers that we don't talk about. And the last few years, certainly when we were dealing with the pandemic, nurses were in the front line. They were on the front line. And I think it's important to be able to reflect back on that experience because you were right there in it. You were in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things to explore. The impact it had on your health, your mental health. What was it like when you're all of a sudden thrown into the spotlight? Because, well, the world stopped for all of us. It didn't stop for you guys.
Not us.
You were there.
Definitely not us. We
Yeah,
were
so welcome.
still going.
Yeah. So, and how long had you been a nurse at that point?
I graduated in May of 19. So
shit.
I had been a nurse for about half a second and I went straight from school into ICU. And, they tell, I don't know if you know, but they often tell nurses when you graduate, go to med surg. I am not a med surg nurse. It doesn't match my personality. It doesn't match the way that my brain works. It was not ever going to be somewhere that was the right fit for me. So I went straight to ICU.
What's med surg? What's that?
Medical surgical.
Okay.
We call them like people who can walk and talk. So like if you go into the ER for, I don't know, you're throwing up, they can't figure out why. They've done some scans and they still can't figure out why, but you're not actively like getting close to coding or actively needing surgery or needing vasopressors or a ventilator. So like a breathing machine. If you don't need any of that stuff, you can walk and talk and you need medication and monitoring. They put you on a med surg floor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's a bit different. It's a very different skill set. And it is a skill set. It's very much time management. It's, they give a lot of medications. They have more patients per nurse. Usually it's somewhere between 5 and 8, I think. Whereas I have 2.
Nice.
I have 2 very, very sick patients, but I have 2.
Yeah.
So it's a very different skill set. But I had been a nurse for about literally, I graduated in May. I just got off of orientation that fall. And then it really hit hard the spring of 20.
And you're one of the busiest hospitals up here in the South, right?
Yes, I'm at the 7th largest hospital in the nation. Alabama's only level 1 trauma. And actually, I traveled during that time.
You were a travel nurse as well?
Yes, I traveled during that time. I figured they could either pay me like crap or treat me like crap, but we weren't going to do both. So especially if I'm putting, my family's health at risk, if I'm going to go into this every single day and I'm going to deal with, and I knew I knew as soon as it started getting bad, what kind of impact this was going to have on all of us. When I had to park outside and have a change of clothes and a towel outside because I would not even wear my clothes in the house in the beginning. Yeah. We didn't know, we didn't know how that was going to be. I've got kids. I've got a husband that is super predisposed to cardiac issues, and it wasn't something I was willing to risk. So I was changing, like completely stripping down, disinfecting outside, coming in, going straight to the shower. And then my husband would literally like bleach the floor behind me as I'm walking in because we had no idea how bad it was going to be. I mean, I don't know if in the beginning, if all of that was actually necessary looking back, but because we didn't know, we were scared. We were, doing all the things. So
none of us knew. Nobody knew. And that's something that is important to reflect back and understand. Like you can have fear, you can be, and there was a lot of that. There was a lot of fear mongering. There was a lot, but what do you do in the absence of knowledge when there is no medical provider that's truly giving you, and have to be careful because YouTube algorithm and the AI is going to scan through this, but it was a lot of unknown. And for us at home, for everybody that was like, hey, everybody stay at home, we were we're in a cocoon, we're in a bubble for the most part. And you could just blissfully just turn on Netflix. You couldn't fucking do that.
Tiger King was all I heard about. And I was like, I don't know what this is. I mean, I don't know what this, and they were like, well, she killed the husband. I'm like, still don't know I still have no idea what this is because I never watched it because I didn't have time.
Yeah.
But
Bitch, I'm trying to eat.
I was like, I don't know. What do you think about that? And I was like, I have no idea. It was different. I think it's important to realize that we were all doing our best, but we practice medicine. That's what we say. We are practicing nurses. We are practicing clinicians. We're doing our best. Everybody was, I feel like, but we didn't know. I think everybody wanted to keep everyone as safe as we could. And there was a lot of fear mongering. It was frustrating being on the front lines like that and seeing how a very scary situation was being manipulated for everyone else's end game. There was and it wasn't, this group of people or that group of people. It was everyone. Everyone was picking the entire situation apart, picking out, like cherry picking the pieces that made the most sense for whatever their particular end game was or their particular message, and taking that. And it was just very manipulated. And it was really difficult to see that and see that being portrayed publicly in the media, in social media, and then also get up every morning and go to work. And that's just it wasn't the same. They weren't, as the young kids say, the math wasn't mathing. There were things missing somewhere. And that was hard to see. It was hard to experience and hard to kind of combat. And being the only nurse in my family, everybody was like, hey, what do you think? Hey, what is this? Hey. And I was like, look, dude, we don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels between that and being in a combat zone. And some people are like, well, you're being overly dramatic. No, think about it, dude. Like you are going into a hazardous environment and you have to put on blinders or get in tunnel vision and focus on what's immediately in front. And as soon as you get done, everybody wants to bombard you with questions. Is like, fuck, dude, I am trying to keep it together and take care. There are so many unknowns, and I can't even imagine what it was like going into your work environment and seeing the new cases, how packed was that hospital? And like, how did you manage each day going from like focusing in on the mission?
So I was at several different hospitals during the span of COVID, and every single one of them had ICU overflow and they were holding them in the ERs. So there were lots of times that as an ICU nurse, I would be pulled to go manage the ICU patients in the ER because, again, ER nurses, total badasses, completely different skill set. They are used to like stabilizing and out. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, like we treat them and eat them. Literally, like they stabilize and then go because they've got so many people. They are turning those beds over so quickly. So managing vasopressors, managing ventilators, that kind of stuff, they can stabilize, but they're not super accustomed to managing that level of acuity while also managing everything else they've got going on down there. So they would pull us. So almost every facility I was in had ICU overflow because there were no more beds. At one point, we were looking at two different options. There was a group of people working on figuring out how to split a ventilator, one machine that it's a tube that goes down your throat and breathes for you, into 4 patients. Like they were literally changing the mechanisms inside, adding add-ons, basically what they do in the space station. Like, here's what we've got. This is what we need. Here are your materials. Make it work. They were trying to back engineer it to split that one ventilator into 4 patients because we were running out of ventilators. And then there were other scenarios where our social workers were actually being trained on how to go in and tell a patient that we knew wasn't going to survive the disease process, that we needed their ventilator to give it to somebody who may survive the disease process, and having to tell those people's families, like, we need their vent because they're not going to make it and they are. So luckily it never got to any of that scenario, but it was, you never had an open bed. And even if you had an open bed, you may not have the nurses for it. That's a big misconception about nursing right now, is everybody thinks we don't have enough nurses. We have plenty of nurses.
Yeah.
And in many times there's just not enough nurses who are who are willing to be at bedside right now. It's been rough. Last year, there was a study out by the American Nursing Association that said that 85% of bedside nurses were looking to leave within the next 12 months.
Really?
Yeah. Being bedside is hard. It's tough on your body. It's tough mentally, and kind of like you guys walking into a battlefield. It really was a battlefield. I mean, we put on our PPE, we walked in, we could code a patient, lose them, have to like get it together really quick because our one next door is still fighting. So we can't, there's a lot of disassociation, a lot of depersonalization. It almost makes you feel like you've lost some of your humanity, because I don't cry when I'm supposed to. Like, people die, you're supposed to cry. I don't. I cut it off, and I can't because I don't have time.
You don't have time to process, which is something that's another thing that we talk about it a lot on this show. You experience a moment in time, and if you don't process it, that stays with you. You know, sound like a broken record. Bessel van der Kolk, the body keeps a score. You don't process that trauma, it stays with you, and it goes. And our first responders, our doctors, nurses, like, these are individuals in the worst moments of your life. They're there with you. They're there in that room. They're watching you. They're working their asses off trying to make sure you can make it through. But and sadly, when you expire, that stays with that person. And if you're working nonstop through an unprecedented event, you don't got time to go home and process this. So of course these individuals are getting burnt out.
No, especially when, like I still remember my very worst shift. It was Christmas Eve of 22. Or is it 21? It was a Christmas Eve. It was bad. It was bad. And we lost 6 patients that day. Oh. We knew we were going to lose 4. We did not think the other 2 were going to go. And we lost 6 patients that day. And we also intubated 1. Literally, I stayed late to intubate this patient. I took my personal cell phone into his room because we didn't have any more iPads. We didn't have anything. And I don't even know if it was, appropriate to take my personal cell phone, but I double bagged it in bio bags. But this particular patient was a foreign national. Like, he wasn't from here. He had no family here with him. And he had young children back in his home country that he wasn't even going to get to speak to. He had all of the markers that I knew once we intubated him, the chances of him making it through that disease process were next to none. And I wanted him to be able to talk to his family. So I took my phone in there. I let him FaceTime his family on my phone. And we intubated him at, 8:00 on Christmas Eve. And Christmas Day is my oldest son's birthday. So I had to come home and be mommy. Like, I had to come home, and after losing 6 people and coding and working hard all day long, and then knowing that man was probably not going to make it through, I had to come home and like snap out of it, put on my happy face and be mom and do the Christmas thing. And some of that stuff just, then I'll drop a pin on the floor in the kitchen and completely lose my mind and like break down into tears.
Yeah.
My family's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Sure, I'm fine." I mean, what do you say?
Yeah. No, most people don't understand that it's a absolute fucking mindfuck having to be 2 people and wear a mask. Like,
for sure.
That's, no human being can keep that up for too long. And like, the military, we're fortunate. Our battlefield is, hopefully it remains this way, but it stays miles and miles away from home. And if you do the right thing, if you're cognizant enough, if you're aware of what you experience, you can come back and you can speak with professionals, get help, eventually process that stuff and be the best version of yourself at home, and not deal with the repercussions of putting all that stuff in the back burner. Our first responders, our nurses, our doctors here in the States, every day you're going into your battlefield. Every day you're engaging with this. Like, at any moment that you have that understanding of like, fuck, like, this is getting deep and I need some sort of outlet.
Yeah, there were many times, but I didn't have time at the time. We everybody was short staffed. We were working, and there were days, I took one contract that was a 21-day crisis contract. So I worked 21 days straight, 21 days of 12-hour shifts. And those 12 hours are under the best of circumstances when you're not bogged down with paperwork, because what did not relax during that time were our charting demands and our documentation.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. I didn't even think about all that stuff.
And every time you give a medication, every time you walk into a room, I mean, you have to document all of that, because we also can face lots of legal backlash in our profession. I mean, a ton of legal backlash in our profession. And we don't have, the hospitals do take care of us. I mean, they have insurance on us, but also we're kind of a dime a dozen a lot of times. And so if they have to make a choice, they're, in my opinion, I've never been presented with this situation, but I feel like we would kind of be the lowest on the totem pole as far as like who they're going to protect. So all of that still remained. We still had all of that documentation to do, all of those things. So saying 12 hours is literally under the best case scenarios. I mean, most of those days were easily 13, 14-hour days for us. And I did 21 of them straight. So I didn't have time to do anything. And then you have to think about the ones of us who had children who schools shut down. So I pulled my kids out of school and we started homeschooling. So on top of what I was going through professionally, I was trying to figure out how to homeschool my children and how to navigate their isolation. Because one thing we did know very quickly is the impact that the masks and all the social isolation were having on our youth. We knew that fast.
And we're still seeing the effects right now.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Shout out to Perry Ann Parkman, who's running for Manatee County School District 3. She's running because she's seen the effects of what's happened. Kids went back to school, but they never were held to a standard while they were out. And now you got kids and I think she was saying 4th, 5th grade, they can't read. Can't read.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane.
But moms don't teach. As a general rule. I mean, most of us don't wake up and go, you know what, we're going to homeschool. Now, I will say that movement is growing in part, due to COVID, due to all of these schools closing down. But also those teachers had no idea. I mean, they have never been thrown into a situation where they're like, okay, you take everything that you have learned, all of your curriculum, all of your plans, flip that around, do it online and through worksheets. They didn't know how to do that either. It was before all of the process. Necessity is the mother of invention. So now they have Google Classrooms and they have all these Zoom things. But prior to this, they weren't prepared either. And they were doing the best they could to teach with what they had, but also depending on parents who, a lot of us were still working. Like it wasn't, a lot of things didn't shut down. The industry that my husband is in, he was still working. So he was still out of town a couple of days a week.
Shit.
I was working only weekends. So we basically were like high-fiving on Thursday nights. Here's what's going on with the house. Here's what's going on with the kids. Love you so much. See you later. I mean, it's made for a very rough few years for sure. And I can see several families around me that have experienced that. I mean, obviously most of my friends are nurses and healthcare professionals. So I see a little bit different perspective of it, but even people in our neighborhood were like, my kids don't know how to make friends anymore.
That's
and we
insane.
saw the psych part of pediatrics requiring a lot more beds. There were a lot of suicide attempts, a lot of depression, higher levels
within
of anxiety.
the youth.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I know they closed an entire med-surg floor on one of the big hospitals, one of the big children's hospitals, and turned it into a psych floor because they had so much overflow. They had to find somewhere to put these kids so that they could get treatment and get help before they made a decision that couldn't be undone. So we knew early going in that this was hurting the kids, but we didn't know what to do about it either. I mean, how do you keep them safe? And I don't know.
That's insane. That I had no understanding that was a critical issue.
It was a lot. It's been a lot. And these kids are resilient and they're bouncing back. But I can tell you, to be very upfront and honest, I put my children back in public school this year, and we have found some marked deficits And that reflects directly on me. I don't like math. I think math is the devil. I don't know why you have to put the letters and the alphabet all in together. Like, I don't know who put 1 through 10 and ABC all together.
Yeah. Shout out to college algebra. Fuck you.
So much. Deeply
have a bone to pick with you.
But me trying to teach my kids that, like, I understand it just enough to be able to do what I need to do with it for my job and to get through it. But I can't explain to them why they're there because I don't know why they're there. I'm like, my middle son's like, Mom, why are there letters? And I'm like, dude, I don't know, retweet. I have no idea why there are letters there. There just are. So we've found some huge math deficits and now we're like busting tail to make up for it. But we didn't have an option of a tutor. We didn't have Sylvan. We didn't have Mathnasium because all of that stuff shut down too. Yeah. So if you weren't particularly gifted in math, or, I mean, a lot of times these kids have learning deficits, like they're dyslexic. It's very difficult to teach a dyslexic baby how to read because they see things differently. Their brains see in 3D. And so the D's and the B's and the P's and the G's all get mixed up. And it doesn't make sense to them. And if you're not trained in that and trained with resources how to get through that, as a mom, what do? Like, you pick a struggle. You're trying to survive. You feed your kid. You love your kid, but maybe your kid doesn't know how to read this year. Yeah. I get it. I think it's shocking, but coming from this side of it, I get it. It's hard.
Yeah, parents dealt with a lot during the pandemic, and like we see it on the kids now. We see it, and I don't know, like coming into it now, understanding like the importance of being able to, like, homeschooling sounds amazing, but what if you can't devote full time to it? It's a full-time job. And when you're nursing and when you're traveling and saving other people's family members, like, what time do you have for yourself? What time do you have for your family? Like, it's incredibly difficult. Yeah. Like, and I would imagine that even bleeds into right now, even though there's no, knock on wood, there's nothing crazy going on. I did hear there's a new outbreak of monkeypox, but
I did hear that.
Even now, like, how do you make time for your family? How do you make time for yourself?
So my particular family has gone through some big changes. Like I said, I've only worked weekends for the past 7 years. Kids have been homeschooled. And usually I need at least 1 day a week, which my husband hates it when I say this, but I call it my rot day because I just need to sit and rot. I make so many decisions, so many micro decisions at work and I don't care what we eat for dinner. Like, I don't care. If you eat, great. If the kids want to eat dog food, like at this point, groovy, go for it.
You're sounding a lot like a Green Beret.
It's just, we do what we do, but micro decisions and all of the decisions and all of like the need that so many people need me during the day. That call bell never stops. Clinicians, providers need me. Other nurses need me. By the time I get home, I'm like, okay, I'm so overstimulated. My brain is done. It's just fried. Yeah. And so I needed a rot day. He hates it. So I've changed it to my 1% day. Like, you get 1% of me today. That's all you get. I might say hello. Yeah. I might get up to eat. Maybe. We'll see. But that's not really effective for a family. I mean, I've got teenage kids that need attention. Yeah. They need presence. They need interactive conversation to make sure that they're going on the right direction in their life. So we did put them back in public school in an effort to take some responsibility and weight off of my shoulders. I did change my work status. I found a hospital that I love. I am staying at it and got off of weekends only. So doing some different things. I've gotten into Pilates. I practice a lot of mindfulness with my therapist. I have a therapist that somewhere that woman's got some golden wings and a throne waiting for her. She is a lifesaver.
So you found a therapist. Now, did you find a therapist after everything quieted down? Is it recent?
No, actually, I had a pretty traumatic first marriage, pretty traumatic divorce and custody battle. And she was basically thrown at me from the universe or God or whatever higher power you believe in. It was more of like, here she is. This is for you. She is your person. Go. And I did. And I have never been more grateful, I don't think, to one individual in my life. She's just awesome. And I can still, even now, like now I do maintenance visits. I'm in a better place.
Yes, we talk about that all the time. Like, therapy doesn't have to be the scary thing. They're like, oh, I'm going to go to a therapist. And then you're begging for it to end. And then, or the opposite, where you just constantly for like your entire life. It's like, no, it's a journey. When you get to a place where you can go off on your own, like, okay, you go off on your own, but then you hit a pit stop or you hit a flat tire and need help again, go right back in. Like, that's amazing.
Yes.
That is
Maintenance
awesome.
visits are everything. And I'm very blessed with her that I can text her and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Am I overreacting? I've tried all the things. I don't know. And she'll be like, okay, maybe think about X, Y, and Z and let me know if that helps. And if it helps, great. And if not, I text her the next day and I'm like, how about let's schedule something? And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So I have developed that relationship and I'm so grateful for her. But she has been, obviously huge impact. And she teaches a lot of mindfulness, a lot of waiting to feel where the fear is coming from in your body. Like, is it tight in your chest? Is it your shoulders? Is it in your jaw? So when that stuff starts, when I start feeling those feelings, I can try to figure out where the emotion is connecting and start unraveling it before it unravels me, kind of.
Yeah.
And I am actually really lucky. I've got a lot of great family, a lot of great support. And my poor children even know now, like they stop at the door and they're like, can I hug you or are you gross? And I'm like, can I give me a minute? Let me go shower. Because COVID was bad, but there are lots of other things that you can get on you doing what I do.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Lots of other
wonderful substances.
So many substances. I don't know if I go as far as wonderful, but so many substances. So they're like, are you good or not? And I'm like, oh, give me just a minute. And I've got a little space that my scrubs go and we just work it out. So I don't know, maybe laughing at things that are probably supposed to be sad, have pretty sick sense of humor.
I mean, dark humor. And I remember when I started getting better after my downward spiral, I remember being hyper aware and hyper cognizant of like everything that I was like doing, especially like, hey, should I be watching this type of movie? Is this good for my mental health? And I would talk to my therapist and I remember like, hey, look, like do this thing, this podcast and like, team room humor. I'm like, I laugh at these moments. Is that okay? And I remember her looking at me, it's like, you're always going to be the Green Beret, like Denny, like you're always going to have that humor. That's part of your tribe. That's part of who you are. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't feel ashamed that those moments still make you laugh. I'm like, all right, good. Just wanted to make sure.
just want to check and make sure I'm not a serial killer. I literally asked my therapist that one time. I was like, I just want to check and make sure I'm not going down like serial killer pathways. Are we safe? Are we good?
Yeah, no, that morbid, that humor that you find, because there is, you have your tribe, you have your nurse corps, your individuals that understand the things that are funny, and like you have to be able to do that on your shifts. You have to be able to look at each other and laugh in those moments and know that it's okay. Like, hey, this is for us. This is our content, our humor.
Yeah.
Like, if people don't get it, they don't get it.
And honestly, I think kind of to do what y'all do, kind of to do what we do, you got to have maybe a screw or two loose. Like,
fact. I
don't think anybody in their right mind is like, you know what I'm going to go do? I'm going to go try this today.
Yeah.
I just think we're built a little different. Maybe we're a little neurospicy or something. I don't know. But
yeah, there's something different in the DNA down deep inside. Like, you have a calling. And I think that's the beautiful thing about your journey is a lot of people jump into their calling right off of high school. And I think you always knew you were meant for more. You always knew there was something bigger for you. Like, it's one thing to see somebody like I said, graduate and go find their calling. But when somebody finally taps into that understanding of like, I'm meant for more, I'm meant for a life of service and be of greater value to my fellow man, and seeing you in your journey, like that's a beautiful thing. Like, and being able to look back now and seeing that younger version of yourself, like, how crazy is it to see like, holy shit, like, look what I've done. Look what I'm able to do.
Yeah. I look back at, because like you said, I had no idea coming out of high school what I wanted. I wanted to go cheer and party. And I was really, really good at it. And I look back now and I'm like, you know, I'm still kind of fascinated that I'm still alive, much less that now I am gifted with being able to help other people.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that. You know, there's something to be said about it's my everyday. It is my everyday to intubate somebody, to paralyze them, to keep their blood pressure up with all these different medications. But this is the scariest day of that person's life.
Yeah.
And it's the scariest day of their spouse's life who's been with them for 40 something years, who doesn't know what's going on. Maybe they're medically naive. Maybe their vocabulary is not quite to the level of how we generally speak. And so they're mad because they're scared and confused. And it, you know, you have to take a second to remember that and break that back down. And it is kind of eye opening that the same girl that was out doing some dumb fuckery is now, you know, trying to calm somebody down and explain things in a way that makes them feel more comfortable and understands that we are doing everything we possibly can for their loved one. And it's a little bit of a growth. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh, hair flip, like, good job.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
It's important to pause. I remember I recently texted a buddy of mine who, I mean, just, I'm not going to say his name so he'll blush, but you go through this career with somebody, and he's a little bit younger than me, not by a lot, by a few years. But when we were going through the Q course, he was, you know, E4, which is, you know, a specialist in the Army. And he didn't have a lot of experience, and he's always counted out. A lot of the senior guys would count him out and dismiss him. And watching his career just explode all the way through, and to finally be at like the pinnacle of his career right now, being a young team sergeant, you know, giving the difficult missions, giving the difficult problem sets because the command believes in him, sees him achieve so much. It's like, I remember telling him, like, you have to pause and reflect, man. Like, you won't get this moment in time again. You won't be able to sit here and look at what you've accomplished, but do it today. Take that moment to look at where you're at in life and look at what you've achieved. When everybody else discounted you, you kept moving. You never faltered. You remained a man of faith. You remained a person of extreme confidence, but not in the cocky sense. He was always sure of who he was and what he brought to the table. And I say that to everybody. If you're listening right now and you've accomplished something, whether it's graduated from college or you got a promotion, pause this episode right now. Just reflect on what you've accomplished. Like, you will get to a point in life where things will get difficult. Things will get hard. You won't have as many wins. So savor this moment right now. That way you can reflect and realize that I've done fucking awesome shit before. I've been a badass before. I can do it again. Like I say it all the time within the Special Forces Creed at the very end. It says, live to succeed again. And we have to be able to look back, see the great success, and understand life's a wave. It's going to come down. It's going to smack the shit out of us, but it'll, you know, our time's going to come back. We're going to be on top of the world. And COVID, that was a big kick in the dick for so many of us, but we're on the backside of it now. Like, we're able to see, okay, like, things can get better. Like, when you walk into work now, how do you find yourself having that ability to take a deep breath and realize, like, okay, like, we made it through some tough shit. I'm fucking still here, and still have that hope and that positivity and not be as jaded?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You've heard that song that say even bad bitches have bad days. Like, yeah, for sure. But I walk in every day and I'm like, okay, what does today look like? Yeah. Again, the unit that I work on at the facility that I'm in, it is wild. It is balls to the walls, like super high acuity, very, very sick patients every single day. But I'm also in a unit that we get a little bit of everything. Like, I get all kinds of stuff thrown at me. So I go in every morning and just see what we're going to do today. Like, where are we going to go today? And I give it my all. And I think there are some parts of me that are still pretty jaded. You know, I can be doing postmortem care, thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. And I think that's a little weird for a lot of people. But I also feel like if you don't know what the inside of a body bag smells like, then I don't think you get to tell me what's weird anymore. I have worked on that. Like it's a very much boots on the ground situation. If you are not boots on the ground and you have no hands-on first person experience, I don't care as much about the judgment maybe. Like, feel free to judge. Do you, boo? But I think I've gotten to where if I won't take their advice, I also don't care about their judgment anymore. And that's been a big step for me. So I don't know if I would say that I'm not as jaded, because I think that's kind of become part of my armor, a little bit of my defense to protect myself. Because I think I tell people this all the time, I can tell you your room number. I can tell you what all of your labs look like. I can tell you where all of your IV access is. I have no idea what your name is. And that probably sounds awful, but I think that's one of the ways that I personally depersonalize. I keep all of my patients, while I love them all, I keep them at arm's distance so that I can protect myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the same as jaded, but
I don't think so. I think that you have to do that. You have to be able to do that in order to be the best provider. I think if you're too close and you get personable, like that's difficult. That makes it even harder for you. And we see our medics and our docs in the military deal with that. I mean, when we call for doc, that motherfucker knows us.
Yeah.
And you can't, I wouldn't wish that pain on anybody. It's one thing to work on somebody you don't give a fuck about, especially if it's the enemy. But when the dude that's crying laying next to you, like you've been through training with that dude, you know their families, that's a whole different type of pain. And that's why they're the greatest. That's why our 18 Deltas and every other medical specialty in our soft community, there's some badass motherfuckers because they have to flip that switch.
Well, you have to, because otherwise you make emotional decisions instead of logical ones. And emotional decisions are not always the most thought out. I mean, you would make a decision that maybe didn't make any sense because it's what your heart said.
Yeah.
So you have to, for their safety. I mean, you love them enough that you cut it off, basically.
Yep.
I don't even know if that makes any sense. It does in my head, but
yeah, that makes sense.
You have to put up a barrier and you have to just focus in and do your job to the best of your ability and then deal with the repercussions after.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way that you can get through it. At least that's the only way I can get through it.
And what's next for you as far as a nurse? I know that there's some things that you're trying to move around and change.
Yes, I am applying to CRNA school next cycle.
So why would you do that? It's more work.
It is more work. It is. However,
yeah.
It's in the operating room. It's one-to-one patient scenario. I would be focused on one patient. I'm getting on up there in the years and moving every shift. The average amount of weight a nurse moves per shift is 1,000 pounds between lifting, boosting, changing, rolling. You have to think we've got patients that 500-600 pounds. We have to move them every 2 hours to keep them from getting bed sores. We have to pull them up in the bed. We have to bathe them. If they have bowel movements, we have to clean that up. If they need to be put in a scanner, we have to take the bed down, move them from this bed to the scanning bed, scan them, bring them back, move the bed back. And that stuff adds up over the years. And I know that I haven't been doing it for too terribly long, but I was a little bit older going in. My body won't be able to handle it forever. Like these nurses who've been at it for 50, however many years, those women are, when you see those women, you are safe. Like you are good. You know, those women know what they're doing, or those men even, you are in good hands, because like most of the people that are closer to my age are like, okay, nurse practitioner school, CRNA school, how do we protect our bodies, protect our minds, and kind of get out of bedside? Yeah. Which is, it's sad. I think bedside nursing needs a lot of love right now. I'm not quite sure how to intervene and help on that. It's something that I'm researching and looking at, but I think everybody in the industry is trying to figure out how we keep more of us at the bedside.
Yeah.
But also just, moving on, getting the kids situated, changing some things around, trying to find things to do to stay busy.
Yeah. And that brings me to our next question. Now, you're somebody that's of service to your community, to anybody that you come across at the hospital, but you're also helping bring awareness and, be of service to our veteran community. I want to give a shout out to your next event that's coming up. Tell us about that.
Yes. So we are putting on a golf tournament. It's the Crulac Classic. It is going to be September 11th at Greystone on the Legacy course. It's a beautiful members only course. It's for the Crulac Marine Alliance of Alabama, and their main philanthropic principles are veteran suicide prevention, TBI awareness, and child gun safety.
Oh, two of the things that we cover most, not child gun safety. We here at Security Halt believe that every child should be armed. I mean, wait, no, we don't believe that.
Really?
Do we?
Appropriately, maybe. With
the right training.
With good education and safety. I'm all right with it.
Yeah. So how long has the Crulac Classic been a thing?
So this is our first year. They've been doing
first year.
They've been doing fundraisers as an organization, but they're kind of like nickel dime fundraisers. Like somebody will donate a firearm and it's, $5 raffle ticket, $10 raffle ticket, and they'll raise a little bit of money and they use that and they go back to doing what they're doing. I mean, they know for a fact they've prevented over 30 veteran suicides up to this point.
Wow.
They've done all of this work, but it's very hard to continue to do this work when they're having to nickel dime these things.
Oh, and I know.
My husband and I were like, hey, let us do a golf tournament. We can get some big corporate sponsors. We can give you guys the funds that you need. It would be a one-time a year thing. And it's not them doing it. It's not the organization doing it.
Yeah.
It's us and a team of people that we've put together who are looking for fundraisers, who are going to run the tournament, who are doing all of these things, who are bringing in volunteers, which also injects a lot of youth and vitality into this organization. And it's been great. We are very excited about it. Still looking for a couple of sponsors, still looking for a couple of teams. I think we've got 3 or 4 teams still open. Teams of 4.
Teams of 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And sponsorship is still open?
Sponsorship is still open. We've got some 1-star sponsors open. I think we still have a couple of the big higher end, like all the way up to $15,000 sponsors open. We have our title sponsor, Golden Scientific Labs is our title sponsor. He is a retired Marine and very invested.
Nice.
Yeah, we're very, very excited about it. It's going to be great. It's a little bit more work on the front end than I had anticipated, especially since when they gave us the reins in like April, we didn't have a website until May. So it's been like, get it done.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It has.
And what's the website real quick?
It's the crulaclassic.org. Make sure that's
pause the episode right now and go to the episode description. That information will be right there for you.
Yeah, we would love to have some actual veterans. I mean, we've got some higher level C-suite people come into play, and that's great. We would love to have more veteran involvement, not specifically Marines. It's all branches. It's everybody. It is on September 11th this year. So big day.
That's a huge day.
We will also be honoring we have our local fire chief coming out. We have our local police chief coming out. All of our holes will be honoring either a fallen officer, a fallen firefighter, or a fallen soldier. Like I said, we will also be honoring our police department, our fire department. I feel like, that's you guys, healthcare, firefighters, police officers. We all kind of have our little club. It feels like
we do. We know intimately what it's like to have to be there on some really rough days and then have to redo it over and over and over again, be of service of others. It's a tribe. It's a community of individuals that are willing to put others first on a constant basis. And you don't always get the help you need. And that's something that I'd like to highlight. Our nurses, our first responders, you guys are added to service just like we are as veterans and even active duty service members. I know for a fact a sheriff deputy or a police officer can't openly say, I need help, and go seek mental health. It's often frowned upon, and it's a liability to their department. But there are great organizations and resources out there that will keep everything 100% confidential. So if you're out there listening and that's your situation and you need help, please reach out. There are tons of organizations we connect you with. I'll shout out a few right now: 22-0, Tactical Resilience, and I believe Saving the Hero. Those are 3 right now will help you out, free, no charge to you, and they do great work. And you can be 100% confidential and have that peace of mind that they're not going to report you or put anything on documents, and you can start getting help. That's the one thing we have to do. It's unfortunate, but no one's coming to save you. No one's coming. The cavalry's not coming. It's up to us. Whether you're a veteran, a first responder, a nurse, or a doctor, if you see somebody suffering within your organization, be willing to stop and ask. And then if you don't know where to go, just simply Google. Sit down with somebody and Google for resources. That's one of the most important things we can do. That I know I do it every Thursday. We have our peer-to-peer support group. Right now, it's still a closed group. The same individuals have been coming for the last few months. And when this group eventually closes out, we'll open it back up for the next round. But remember, sometimes the one thing that we all need is just somebody that holds space for us and be willing just to hear us out, and maybe be the one that Googles for resources. So yeah. So Vicki, what is next on your agenda as far as, the Cruelette Classic? What else? What do we really need, and what can we really help out with? Is sponsorship the most important thing, or getting more people to sign up for the actual teams?
Either one. I mean, we can play with what we've got. It would be great. We, of course, want, as in our inaugural year, we want it to be as wonderful as we can be. We're going to grow. We're going through some growing pains, as you do with a first year thing. And we're so excited about it. We would love a couple of more sponsors. We have, so I don't know if you know what Vortex is.
Oh yeah.
As I say,
yeah.
Well, Vortex Glass has now branched over into the golf world. They have released a rangefinder, not the same kind of rangefinder you guys have.
Yeah.
Rangefinder to find the flag at the end of the hole. So it lets you know how far you need to hit your ball.
Yeah.
They've offered to give them to us at cost if we can find a sponsor to sponsor one for each of our players. That's a, $300-$400 gift that we would be able to gift everyone if we could find a sponsor for that. It's been a big one. We would love that. We would love to make it something that people talk about so that we can grow it next year and keep giving back to this community, keep giving back and honoring the people that signed that blank check for us and are maybe not getting all that they could be getting. So definitely sponsorships. And obviously we would love to have it packed out. We can have up to 25 teams. We would love to have it packed out. The more, the better. It increases brand awareness. So we would love that. At this point, we're just working on finalizing the details. We need numbers. So if anybody wants to play, y'all come play with us. But give us some shirt sizes because those have been ordered. So we need to get those in. We're so excited about it. We would just love to have some more big sponsorships so that we can have some more brand awareness. I think our biggest goal this year is to lay a really great foundation and keep building.
That sounds awesome. We'll get this out here and we'll start running some reels with some information and hopefully get some more awareness. The Cruelette Classic, September 11th.
Yes.
We're pumped. We're going to put it out there. I might be traveling. I might be out of the States for that, but I got some folks in the area that might want to come play golf. I don't play golf, but I'll ride around in the car and drink Liquid Death and make commentary all day.
I feel like that would be a great thing for you to do. I feel like if I gave you a camera and just let you ride around, it would be the best promos I could probably get.
I think so too. We might be able to make that happen.
I'm here
we'll
for
see.
it. Absolutely here for it. I will set you free.
Awesome. Vicki, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
you for what you're doing. I am so proud of you. Absolutely thrilled to see you continue to achieve, because I don't think that you reached your absolute best position. I think you can continue going, and I am so excited to see you crush life, man. It's absolute pleasure having you on. And to all y'all listening, be nice to your nurses. So the next time you get hurt or in trouble, be kind to those people. They need your help too, especially the male nurses. They get a lot of shit. They don't get a lot of pats on the back.
They do. We kind of put them through hell too.
Oh yeah. We'll see you all next time. Till then, take care. If you like what we're doing and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to share us, like us, subscribe, and remember, we get through this together. Take care.